The views and opinions of this broadcast do not reflect the views and opinions of Armed Media, New Productions and its affiliates. Enjoy the show.
Teflon Pan Man. I'm the Teflon Pan Man. Ain't nothing gonna stick on me.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to All You Can Eat. It's the podcast about deliciousness. I'm your host, Rob Rosenthal. Excited to come to you this evening with episode 99 of All You Can Eat. And you know what? I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to play actually an interview from someone else's podcast when I was the guest. So stay tuned. Here we go with an interview of me. And in the meantime, if you're looking for a holiday gift, you might check out my book. It's called Short Order Dad, One Guy's Guide to Making Food Fun and Hassle-Free. Here we go with the interview.
Welcome to the At-Home Dad Show. We are two stay-at-home dads perfecting the art of keeping up a home, raising children, and other manly stuff. I am Baker.
Hey, and I'm Adam. Please find us online. We are on Twitter and Instagram at Home Dad Show. And please send us an email if you want to say hi or be a guest on the show. hello@homedadshow.com.
All right, Adam, who do we have with us today?
Well, today we are thrilled to have on the line multi-talented Robert Rosenthal. He's an author of the book Short Order Dad, One Guy's Guide to Making Food Fun and Hassle-Free. By the way, it makes a great Father's Day gift. Tell your family. Rosenthal is a food and travel journalist who has written for the Huffington Post, Food and Wine, and The Daily Meal. And if that wasn't enough, he has the All You Can Eat podcast on the iHeartRadio network. Say hello, Rob Rosenthal. What's going on, Rob?
Hello, gentlemen, Baker, Adam. Pleasure to be with you this afternoon.
Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to come and be with us on our little show. It's humbling.
Glad to be here. My pleasure.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the stuff we talk about with guests and just between the two of us has to do with feeding the family and just, keeping the fires burning and trying to be healthy and cooking in between all of the things that we all have scheduled. So what you have to say is, I think, going to be especially helpful for us and our listeners, and we're just real thrilled to have you.
Well, it's very nice of you to say. I hope I can be helpful, and I'm certainly going to try.
Right on. Well, how about give us your background?
Well, okay, my background goes like this. I was actually born in New York City, from where I am speaking to you now. And the fact is that when I open my bedroom window in the morning and look outside, I can actually see the hospital that I was born in. So I do tell people that it's clear that I haven't gotten very far. But that said, I had a career in international advertising, which enabled me essentially to travel the world. I have 3 million frequent flyer miles. I was basically paid to kind of present creative ideas around the world. Mm-hmm. But the best part of it, to be honest with you, was the eating. For me,
nice.
I've eaten at like 3,000 restaurants on 6 continents.
Oh my goodness!
And and at night though, I actually pursued a couple of other creative things in New York while I was working during the day. I did stand up here in the city for 3 or 4 years, which was great. I just loved that. But then when it was time to have kids, I kind of had to pull back from the stand up. Those two things don't go together. But I was able to sneak in a year at night. A professional culinary school. So
That's
I got
amazing.
a professional culinary degree. And then when I was able to kind of get out of the advertising business, which is everybody's aim, I think, I was able to combine all those 3 things, kind of like the presenting and the branding, the comedy and the cooking, to create essentially what it is that I do now, which is I try to make food fun. Sometimes that takes the form of writing. Sometimes it takes the form of presenting live. Sometimes it's in podcasting. So that's essentially how that all, kind of came together for me. I mean, the only other thing I would add to the story about me is I've had kind of a love affair, with food since I was breastfed. Some people like have vivid memories of their first sexual experience. For me, I'll never forget my first piece of pizza, which was not unlike my first sexual experience in that it was very hot and over too soon. So there you go. That's a little that's a little backdrop there. That's where I'm coming from.
I love it. How many kids do you have?
I have two fabulous daughters. Everybody, thinks their kids are the greatest, gift. Mm-hmm. But I too am super lucky in that way. I've got two great girls.
Wonderful. How old are they?
Oh, they're not kids anymore, by the way. I mean, like one of them just turned, my little one just turned 20.
Nice.
Oh, boy.
And so my older daughter's 23. So one's in college, and the other just graduated a couple years ago. But what I think is relevant to your audience is that even though I wasn't so much of the classic stay-at-home, my wife and I both worked. It's just that in the distribution of labor, because of my interest and whatever, I took responsibility for the cooking aspect of it. So what I'm telling you is that for 18 years until they went off to college, I was basically responsible for making all the family's meals.
Yeah.
And at some point, my wife said, you should probably write a book about that. And then, like every kind of good husband, I just listened to my wife, and 12 years later, a book came out.
There you go. So were you? Had you already earned the culinary degree by the time you had kids, or was that during the period where they were at home with you?
No, it's exactly the right question. I got the degree right as my first child. My wife was pregnant. I mean, so I got out of the comedy because the problem with comedy to do it is that you got to devote basically almost every night of your life to showing up at a club at midnight to get some stage time and tell some jokes in front of a bunch of alcoholics, which is not conducive to making or raising children.
Right.
So I pulled out of the comedy and I grabbed in that year that I had the culinary degree because I could do that at night. And let me tell you, man, it was just a treat for me. I mean, I ran out of the office. I got to school. It's 3 nights a week, 6 hours a night. 600 hours, and then at the end of it, they were like, all right, you don't really get the degree until such time as you've done. They called it an externship.
Okay.
And I go, well, look, I mean, I'm a president of an international advertising agency. I'm going to have a hard time, cleaning dishes in a restaurant or whatever it is that I have to do.
Yeah.
And they go, well, there's this new. What do you want to do? And I said, well, I want to do media. And they said, well, there's this new operation being formed, and it's called the Television Food Network. Now, the beauty of this is that it was literally like 3 blocks from my office in Midtown. And so I spent, 3 or 4 months up at the Food Network as an intern, helping produce like cooking segments for
perfect.
I don't know if you know Robin Leach, Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous,
sure.
his show. And then and then at the end of that year, I had the degree and ended up having my first child. So that's how it came.
Fantastic. So what was your approach to feeding your kids and your family? And of course, there's a lot of different stages, as they grow. But kind of generally, how did you approach, keeping the family fed?
Well, if I had an approach. In general, even before we get into the specifics of the family, I would say that I can identify my kind of cooking methodology in 6 words.
Okay.
Most taste, fewest ingredients, least effort.
I like it.
Right? So,
yes.
So what I'm going to tell you is that in spite of the fact that I may have some fancy degree, I'm not a fancy guy. I have eaten around the world. I have a professional culinary degree, and nothing is going to make me happier than a slice of pizza or a piece of roast chicken or, you know what I'm saying?
Oh, absolutely.
Or a plate of pasta. So when it comes to how I was going to cook for the family, and this, we can talk about the difference in stages that you referenced, but in general, that formula still applies to this day. I made dinner yesterday for 15 people because it was Mother's Day, so the whole gang was here.
Mm-hmm.
But we're not talking about complicated, food. That's my approach. Get the best ingredients you can and don't fuck them up too much.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Nice. Yeah, absolutely.
So I can, my dream is to make food that uses 2, 3, 4 ingredients. So all I'm going to tell you in advance of having just any discussion about the book, I wrote a book with 100 recipes in it. I'm going to tell you 95 of them probably use like 5, 6 ingredients max.
Yeah.
So that's what my cooking style is. So obviously when the kids are younger, you're gonna make food that's appealing to them.
Yeah.
And your goal, I think, I think it goes without saying, your goal in feeding kids is gonna, make it nutritious.
Sure.
But we all have to deal with the fact that, kids are a pain in the ass when it comes to eating. They have likes, they have dislikes. And in my case, I had 2 kids that were polar opposite in terms of what it is that they wanted to eat. And the reason it's relevant is because I would say to them in the morning, what can I make you for breakfast? My one daughter would go, I want egg whites, and the other one would say, I want scrambled, regular scrambled egg. The other one would say, I want whole wheat toast. The other one said, white toast. And one would say, I want turkey bacon. The other would say regular bacon. I looked at them after a year of producing basically 2 meals every morning, and I said, what do I look like to you guys? A short order cook?
Yeah.
They said, yeah. You're short order dad.
There we are.
And so that's where the name originated from.
Okay, so we're not the only ones who have to cook multiple meals for multiple kids.
No, I'm telling you.
Oh, it's brutal.
Well, my job essentially, and I was happy, by the way, doing that in the morning. Like I loved making breakfast for them, whatever it is that they wanted, because I felt like so many people talk about, the family sitting together, the importance of having the family sit together and have dinner every night. I think that's super crucial. But what I was excited about with breakfast was that I got their day started right. I gave them, whatever it was going to be that I felt was like, and I would sit with them for breakfast, and
Sure.
I gave them what I felt would be a good way to start the day. So I was always happy doing that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it works great. That was never my thing. But
I don't think we're big planners on this side either.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm getting that. But what's important to do, right, is in that case, is to have ingredients on hand that will always work, right?
Right.
So for example, let's talk about it. I mean, you want to have some fruit around. You always want to encourage that. You're obviously going to have eggs around.
Yep.
Whether or not you go for regular bacon or turkey bacon, you're going to want to have that around. I'm going to be honest with you. I know this sounds crazy, and dads are not going to be happy to hear this. I didn't give my kids cereal out of a box, honestly. It just wasn't my thing. I'm not saying there's anything inherently wrong with it. It's just that I felt like if I were going to cook something, I was going to cook it. I wasn't going to just dump, cereal out of a box. Now, that said, I'm big on oatmeal, and only discovered recently that in addition to kind of like the classic, sweet kind where there's some, cinnamon and some brown sugar or honey and that kind of thing. Recently, I started making it for myself and for whoever is in the house, because sometimes they're both here, sometimes they're not. I started making savory oatmeal, meaning that rather than going cinnamon and sugar, I made the oatmeal with salt and pepper. If I had some cheese in the house, another good ingredient, I might grate in some Parmesan cheese, and then I would top it with like a fried egg. Now, I'll tell you something, man.
Wow.
That's just really good eating.
Yeah.
And then you go, well, I don't know. Does oatmeal make sense for, a meal that's, that's not, sweet and that's savory? And the answer is, of course.
Yeah.
Because any kind of grain, whether it's going to be from oats or it's going to be from, rice or from wheat is generally savory. So in answer to your question, even if you don't plan, you want to have things in the house. You want to have fruit, you want to have eggs, you want to have bacon, you want to have bread, some type of whatever your bread thing is.
Yeah.
And even though I kind of made a big deal about like not necessarily, feeding them cereal out of a box, don't get me wrong. There was going to be a day or two over the course of a week that, in order to kind of keep it interesting, I would toast up, like a frozen, waffle. Now, maybe I would lean to getting something that was more like multi-grain than not. But what I would do with the waffles, I would serve it with a little bit of fruit. I would serve it with almond butter or peanut butter, right? Maybe with a slice or two of turkey bacon, so that you're kind of giving, a little bit of a variety and depth with the meal.
Nice. We're really big on the soft-boiled eggs. We love a good 6-minute soft-boiled egg. We boil some water, drop it in gently, let it cook for 6 minutes, pull it out, and then we always have like avocados on hand, and we'll do avocado toast. I saw that you had avocado toast in your book, which is great. It's always been a topic here on the show. It's nice to get those good healthy fats in there. Breakfast is always tricky. I feel like sometimes I repeat the same things. We're not a family that does cereal out of a box, but we have started doing some granola, sort of pre-made granola, and then like you said, oatmeal. I've never taken the oatmeal in a savory direction, and I want to. But we have slivered almonds, and we always have berries and stuff on hand, and we're able to, drizzle maybe a little bit of maple syrup on there. But we've been lucky enough with our kid that we haven't. He hasn't bought into the sweet tooth. I mean, he has a little bit of a sweet tooth, but we really sort of discourage sugar in general from him, so he tends to be more savory. And I think that lucks out because, he'll have pancakes and French toast on occasion, but we really try to not make that an everyday thing, so...
Yeah, I hear you on that, and you've reminded me of a couple of things, right? Which is, one, first of all, avocado toast, brilliant. Get yourself whatever your favorite kind of bread is, you mash on your avocado. What I would do with avocado, it turns out, is I would amp up the avocado a little bit. Sometimes I would throw on it. If I had, for example, here's the point. You take avocado toast as almost like a canvas, like as a platform, right?
Sure.
You can keep it just simple like that. You can also take a couple of pistachios and drop them on a piece, or whatever your favorite nut is, and drop them on avocado toast. If somebody likes spicy, I would always drop on a few like red chili flakes. My kids loved it when I would put on a slice of turkey, from like a deli slice of turkey, or my kids, I turned them on to prosciutto. Of course, one doesn't like it, the other one does. Now, whatever. But I would put a slice of prosciutto on avocado toast, and you can always, and it's great, you can always throw on an egg, like even your soft-boiled over avocado toast is fantastic.
Yeah, it is.
And you can always add, like grated, crumbled kind of, depending. Like if the kids like a feta cheese, for example, a little sprinkle of that on avocado toast. So that's one area. The second thing, granola. I really, really like granola. The distinction that you have to make is I look at sugar as being it's a form of heroin, basically. Sugar is a drug.
Yes, it is.
And I like it as much as anybody, but like once you get that taste in your mouth, it's hard to kind of like stop, right? So the thing about granola is I've never made my own granola in my life. I just want to be honest about that. But you can go and you can get granola that doesn't have a lot. It kind of needs some sweetening. I think for the most part, but you can get like a decent, healthy granola. And I, rather than serve it as like a bowl of cereal, I got a nice yogurt. I get, there was a morning that I would go, here's your breakfast, and it would be like a yogurt. Sprinkle some granola on top, and then on the side it would be like, maybe here's some berries. That goes in there as well, some fresh fruit. So that was that. And then the other thing that you said that I thought was good, I dealt with pancakes and French toast only as if they were weekend food.
Yeah,
right? I don't have the time to start making that stuff during the week. You want a pancake? I'll throw it on the weekend. If I want to throw in some fresh berries, that would be great. If you're having a party, this is how often it's going to happen, right? If you got 12 friends over and it's a birthday party, I'll throw some chocolate chips into your pancake. But that's my license on the sugar. But and French toast, I threw a recipe in the book because I couldn't believe how good it was myself. I make peanut butter French toast. Literally, there's peanut butter in the batter. and that makes for a great piece of French toast, sprinkled with whatever you like, whether it's maple syrup, powdered sugar, etc.
Wow, and it probably adds a little bit of protein in there, which will slow down the glycemic index of anything.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, look at you, doctor.
Yeah, well, I've got blood sugar issues, so I got to be careful of that.
I see what you're saying. Good.
Yeah.
All right, so we've
Well,
covered
not good that you not good that you have them. Good that you know how to
that
deal
you're
with
on top of it.
My own. I tell this story, but it's true. It's like when I went to elementary school, my mother, also working mom, woke up in the morning and made lunch for me to put in either like a brown, paper bag, or I believe I might have had like a Superman lunchbox.
There you go.
And she was fond of making tuna fish salad.
Okay.
Right, because
okay.
And her tuna fish salad had a little bit of mayonnaise and maybe a little bit of chopped like red onion and celery, and it got all mashed up. And then she would put it on some bread and pack it up, and I guess put like an apple or an orange in the thing and some potato chips. She's making it at 7:30, and like lunch is like 11:30.
Mm-hmm.
And you could smell that lunch before I opened like the locker or the you know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
And so when you finally got to that sandwich, on the one hand the bread was soaking wet, like the bread was moist and essentially ruined.
Yeah.
And the thing smelled like cat food.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I didn't eat, thank God there were potato chips in the bag, because I couldn't eat that sandwich.
Yeah.
It was just repulsive. But look, here's the point. When you're sending a kid to school, the obvious thing in the world is that there's going to be a sandwich. And here's the good news, right? Throwing turkey, and this is where avocado comes back into play. Throwing turkey and avocado on a decent piece of bread, lovely. You're gonna stick into a plastic bag. Unlike potato chips, which are great, there are now healthier alternatives, right? Because those things can be baked, and you can always put in. If kids like crunch, you always throw in pieces of carrot and celery. Fruit is a no-brainer, and I am huge on leftovers, right? So yesterday's roast chicken, man, I'm telling you, my kids learned to like it. Almost sometimes prefer it the day after cold, right? So, a piece or two of chicken that you roasted the night before goes great in a lunch. Yogurts, if there's refrigeration, yogurts and your little side of kind of like granola and berries sounds good to me. What else do you guys do for lunch? Because I feel like I can take meals and improve upon them. What else do you send in for lunch?
Well, we're on the team of getting our kid the hot lunch program at school, because unfortunately, my son, he eats everything. Pretty much. He's really a great eater. He's always been a great eater. My wife and I say that's because we made baby food for him, and we know when he was a kid. But I always thought that like a kid's willingness to eat or not eat was always based on what the parents were doing. And I always thought that I judged parents. I was like, well, you're not doing something right, obviously, if they only eat chicken fingers and macaroni and cheese. But we had a nutritionist on who has two children, and the first one was a wonderful eater, ate everything, and the second kid wouldn't eat anything. And so that really opened my eyes to the fact that it's genetic. But back to lunch. My son won't eat anything that was hot that is now cold. So that gets rid of all leftovers. Also, he's not a big fan of the sandwich. For some reason, I don't know why. I'm like, okay. And so that leaves us with cucumbers and some salami or cold cuts or something, and some hummus and some nuts, maybe. That really limited us. So,
but not between two pieces of bread.
Yeah,
like he'll eat cold cuts, but not in a sandwich form.
Yeah, that's interesting. What does he love to eat, just in general?
I mean, he'll eat anything. He loves seafood. He loves. I mean, he pretty much he loves Thai food. He loves Indian food. He's like, hey, Dad, let's go do Indian food tonight. I'm like, all right.
Awesome.
Now you're just bragging over there.
Right? He's like, can I get some more sag paneer? I'm like, okay, sure, buddy, the spinach.
Well,
he loves vegetables. There's a story that I've told where we went, I took him to see some relatives up in Northern California when he was a kid, about 5 years old. And I ordered him like a chicken breast and a side of some steamed vegetables. And he ate the vegetables before he ate the chicken. And the aunties were like, "Look at that kid." But it's strange though. He won't do the leftovers thing, and so that's always been difficult for us. So we do the school lunch thing.
I get that. But here's one thing I want to throw at you, just to contemplate, and it may not work, and it may. But hearing what it is that kid likes, right? Has he ever had cold, like pasta that was cold? Like as if it was a pasta salad.
Well, if it's a pasta salad, yes. But if it was last night's pasta in a red sauce, that's now cold. No.
Well, all I'm going to say is try this one out, right? Make a pasta salad. And make a pasta salad that when you serve it, right, you get whatever your favorite kind of squiggly noodle, let's say. And I do a lot of my shopping over at Costco, right? So they sell shrimp. Like even shrimp cocktail, just in other words, cooked shrimp, and veggies, which he likes, right? I would literally and I serve it cold. Like it doesn't have to be for school. I'm just saying at some point for, let's say, dinner or lunch over the weekend, you're going to make a little bit of pasta. What do they like? Fusilli, corkscrew pasta, these kind of things, right? And you're going to put in little bites of kind of like cooked shrimp, but they're cold, like there's as if they were shrimp cocktail. And you're going to put in little chunks of kind of whatever the favorite veg are, little broccoli florets or cauliflower or whatever it is that they like. And you're going to dress it with nothing more than a little bit of olive oil, whether it's lemon or vinegar, whatever on that side. You want to throw in a little bit of garlic in there, salt and pepper, and serve that pasta salad cold. Great, because that's the way it should be served. And then if he likes that, you got something else to send him to school with.
Yeah, right. Good idea.
That is a good idea. Yeah, I remember when I was a kid, I had a similar sandwich situation. Peanut butter and jelly was more up my alley. But by the time lunch came around, the jelly had saturated, one side of the bread.
Right. Of your Wonder Bread. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So I ended up for I don't know how many years eating just straight peanut butter sandwiches every day for lunch.
Right, I get that. Right, that's the reality of kind of like lunch. But I guess, look, I mean, these days, I suppose for the most part, if you find the things that the kid really, loves, and you have to send them to school with some type of lunch. The thing is that most supermarkets these days have taken a lot of whatever. I'm just saying it's easy to get to supermarkets and see things that are fresh and are already prepared and are nutritious. And if you don't want to splurge, you can replicate them yourself. You know what I mean?
Right on. All right, before we get to dinner, because that's usually the thing that we wrap up with, I loved on your website you have little videos, and people can send you a question, and you will do a video response, which is fantastic. And one of them was your 5 essential kitchen tools. Can you run down those 5 essential tools for the dads at home?
Well, I'd be happy to if I had any recollection whatsoever of what they were.
I know.
Yeah, we can cue you up if you want.
If you have them in front of you, let me see. Let's play this game. Let me see what I can recall, and then tell me that I'm either wrong or fill in the ones that I have forgotten.
Right.
So did I happen to mention knives or pots and pans?
Yeah, well, you start with a knife.
Good knife.
Okay. So here's the thing about knives. I've said this before. I will say it again. It's important to have a good knife. I can't tell you how many times I show up at somebody's house and they go, "Hey, can you cook something?" And they hand me a knife that might have been good like 25 years ago, and it's not cutting anything. And it's when it doesn't cut properly, it's actually more dangerous.
Yeah.
Here's the thing that a lot of people don't know. A sharp knife is actually safer than a dull one because a sharp knife holds the edge when you're cutting, whereas a dull one slips and slides and ends up cutting off a little piece of your finger. Okay, so the point about a knife is you don't have to spend a fortune, right? But it's an investment, and here's the thing about the investment. Generally, a good knife will last longer than most marriages. I mean, so what I'm saying is even if you're blowing $100 or $120, you're going to have the thing for 20 years if it's good. All you have to do is periodically give it a little sharpening and blah, blah, blah. So, so the good knife is good. And brand wise, whatever, they're kind of obvious, right? It's going to be like, what stuff makes a good knife? Global, you can go to any decent kind of Williams Sonoma,
Right.
and look around. Then the only decision that you're going to have to make, if you decide to splurge on a decent knife, is what feels. Well, it's kind of what feels good in your hand. I mean, like if you were only going to have one, some chefs would say you must have a chef's knife,
Yes.
which is the longer kind of 6, 8, 10-inch, knife. I play it a different way. I actually like what you would call a utility knife, 6 inches,
Okay.
and so that it's kind of like comfortable, it's easy. But the most important thing for a knife, on a decent knife, is that it feels kind of good using it. It feels comfortable in your hand.
Yeah, I know that knives can get very expensive, and when I took a cooking course a while ago, they were like, you know what, you don't need to spend $300 on a Japanese knife. You really don't. They suggested that we go out and we get the Victorinox or Victorino, the Swiss Army. They make a brand of kitchen knives, which are fantastic. We have I think it's either an 8 or a 10-inch chef's knife. That is my go-to knife that I use all the time. I also have a very expensive Global knife, which is my second favorite knife. And this knife, this chef's knife from Victorinox, or Victorino, I don't know how you say it, was actually about $35. And the thing is I run it through a sharpener every once in a while, but it's a fantastic knife. We've also gotten a couple of their bread knives. I think everybody needs a little paring knife. And maybe a small serrated knife. A bread knife is always nice too. If you end up cutting some bread, it's hard to do it without it. But you don't need to spend a lot of money on knives.
You know what my go-to is right now, and this was a gift from my brother-in-law. I just found it on Williams Sonoma here. It's the Global Classic Hollow Ground Sentoku knife.
Yeah, we have that exact same knife. That was my second. That was my backup.
This thing is amazing.
Yeah, but it's also $129. Look up the Victorino knives. They're $35, and they're absolutely fantastic. For dads that don't have or on a budget, check out that knife.
Well, I just want to say you kind of nailed it in this sense. I think somewhere on my site, and I guess you could even search the Victorinox. I actually made the recommendation on that. Like you could literally search the site and go, well, you don't have to, but I mean, you could literally search the site and see that I made a recommendation on that, because those are generally the best quality knife for the value. So that's very good.
We're looking on a website right now. It's $44.95.
Yeah,
for the
8-inch chef
the
knife.
8-inch Pro chef knife. Great knife. Love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. All right, so number 2 on your list was a really good pan.
I'm going to tell you, we're still in the game. I'm going to say that one of the things that I recommended, I'm going to give you a couple. One was going to be like a pair of tongs. One is going to be like an instant read thermometer. I would say those two have to be on the list.
Yeah, we have a Thermapen. Do you have a Thermapen?
I do, and I don't use it.
Really?
Huh.
I think it's the most reliable. It's super fast for us. It gives us great reads, and it's really, I feel like it's really one of the most instant read. What are you rocking for your instant read thermometer?
Honestly, I was cheap about it. Anything. It would cost me like $12, and then when it's done working, I can get a new one. But
right.
Yeah, it's a basic instant read thermometer, and the reason it's critically important is because the challenge that most people have in cooking has to do with, how long do I cook it, Rob? Is it, and what's the oven temperature? Fine. What do I want? Is it rare or is it going to be well done? And the answer to any question related to how long do I cook something is the only way that you know it for sure is by checking the internal temperature. And the only way you're going to know the internal temperature is by having a thermometer. So the instant read that I probably purchased a couple of times is like $12, but if you're happy with the probe thing you have, fantastic. Let's push that.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that I've discovered with some instant read thermometers is sometimes you got to leave them in 15, 20, 30 seconds to get an instant read. And I know with the Thermapen, it's about 3 seconds, and it settles in on a temp. But
nice.
that's about that's about $100.
Right. Okay.
But, I got to say, we've had it for years, and it's, we always stop our steaks and our chickens about 5 degrees under where they should be.
Of course.
Because then they'll continue to cook once you take them out.
Right.
All right, on to to pans, I know that we have questions about pans. We just recently in our house got rid of all of our nonstick pans, and we have transitioned to primarily one big cast iron pan, which, if you season it right, is nonstick.
Yeah, I love cast iron.
Yeah, cast iron I use most of the time because I do also love cast iron. In fact, on my podcast that I just did last week, I spent maybe too much time talking about cast iron, 15 or 20 minutes. And the reason for your listeners that cast iron matters is because it's great to cook in for a variety of reasons, primarily because of the way that it conducts heat and keeps heat. Mm-hmm. Secondarily, because you can use it on top of the stove, and you can also put it in the stove, and frankly, you can also put it on a grill or directly over flame because it's essentially indestructible. Mm-hmm. Thirdly, because as you have noted, that when you have a hot cast iron pan, it could potentially serve the same purpose as a nonstick in that you don't necessarily need to even lubricate it to cook in it. So there's 1,000 good reasons to love the cast iron, including, and we talked about this before with some other, like the knife, I mean, including the fact that, you could, a lot of people are using their grandparents' cast iron pans right now. They're essentially indestructible. So I'm big on the can side. The only downside to the cast iron, if you want to call it a downside, is you're not moving it around a lot, right? Cast iron, by definition, is heavy, and whereas in a saute pan, whether it's nonstick or stainless or whatever you want to call it, saute literally in French means to jump, right? So that when you see chefs and you see those vegetables flying around in the pan, they're literally sauteing, because that's the idea of the saute is to jump whatever is in the pan to kind of.
You can't saute in a cast iron.
You ain't going to saute in any kind of cast iron.
Yeah, you're not flipping it.
That said, I do like you guys. I love a cast iron for steak, for searing a piece of tuna, for doing a pancake, for doing a fried egg, whatever. Mm-hmm. Great.
They're also very affordable too, especially considering how long they last.
Right. It's just... I think you could probably go into any hardware store these days, get what is it called? What is it? Lodge is the big brand, and get a decent sized cast iron pan for like, I don't know, 25, 35 bucks more or less.
You could also go to any yard sale and probably pick one up for a couple bucks.
That's true.
There you go.
What's your feeling on nonstick? I know it's been controversial over the years. It started with Teflon, and now we're off that. But what's your thought on that?
Here's the way I play nonstick. I like having nonstick pans around because we're going to do eggs and we're going to saute some veg and whatever. I don't spend a lot of money on them. Costco will sell you 3 nonsticks. They're probably made by Tefal for the most part. That 3 nonsticks is going to end up costing you $25. And then once I see in them, that they're chipped or that they're scratched or whatever, I dump them and get a new round a year later. So that's how I feel about them. I feel like they're good to have. But I wouldn't invest a lot of money in them. And then when they turn, meaning that you're starting to get the sense that they may be releasing, technology technology has gotten to the point where, they're better and they're probably healthier, but I still err on the side of, if I see them like they're pretty much beat up or scratched or chipped or whatever, you don't want that. So you dump them and you get another round of them for $25, $30.
Yeah. My wife is off of the Teflon situation right now, but we have found a decent replacement. They're called Green Pan. There's a bunch of different brands that are similar on Amazon.
Is it ceramic?
And I think it's made with ceramic, and they actually work great. They're especially when they're brand new. For eggs, nothing's sticking to it. So that's a great substitute if you're not into the Teflon situation.
So your list of 5 essentials was the knife, the pan, the tongs, which absolutely you need to have. A great way to flip and move stuff, more so than the fork or a spatula. Microplane grater and the instant read thermometer.
I love this Kitchen MC Tunes.
Tunes. Yeah, I find listen. I'm big on Spotify. It's like I was a radio DJ in college. I just love making my own mixes. Spotify makes that easy for me. And the point of the story is that when I get into the kitchen, it's not a bad idea to have a little something to like an adult beverage and music going. Like the kitchen should be fun.
Yeah.
So that's how I look at it. So the answer is, I think I probably threw on some lists there. I have a ton of them. I don't even. Who am I on Spotify? Am I?
I was just going to ask you because I want to follow you. I want to hear your kitchen music.
I think on Spotify, I'm just Rob Rosenthal. I'm all over the place in terms of my taste, but I will say that I just like having tunes on when I'm cooking and when people are around the kitchen.
I love that too. Sometimes if I'm feeling extra festive, I'll put on music to match what I'm cooking. So like if I'm doing Mexican food, I'll be like, "Hey Google, play traditional Mexican music." Or if I'm doing Italian, I'll do the same thing. I feel like it sets the mood.
What do you play, Italian music?
Hey,
or Mexican music?
I say, "Hey Google, play Mex-Italian."
Nice. Very good.
All right, so we do this thing on the show every night, and it's called...
What the Fuck's for Dinner?
What the fuck's for dinner?
Every night, you gotta have an answer.
What are we gonna do for dinner? What are you doing for dinner tonight, Mr. Rosenthal?
Well, as I mentioned to you before, at this moment I have no clue. So here's what I do. I open up. Well, I make sure that in my Costco shop, and I've said it before, I am the Costco ho. I am there every week of my life, and the reason why is because I actually love shopping at Costco. And the reason I love shopping at Costco is just because it's the product. At the end of the day, it's the product, right? So, and the quantity thing is interesting, right? Because everybody knows that if you go into Costco, you end up with more of whatever it is than what it is that you need. Like buying toilet paper at Costco, you could supply a summer camp. So if you don't have room in your little place for it, but I'm there for I'll be honest with you, that's where my grocery shopping is. I come back from Costco. I can tell you this because I was there yesterday, but I'm there every week. I come back from Costco with grapes and raspberries and blackberries. I come back with shishito peppers and cucumbers. I come back with a big bag of kind of broccoli that's already cleaned and chopped up. I come back with chicken in various forms. Sometimes I just buy the skinless and boneless organic thighs. Sometimes I buy two because they package two whole chickens together. You have a choice of there being kosher or organic, either way. And so when I open, I buy a ground turkey there. It's also organic. I have bought their leg of lamb, which I proposed as a Mother's Day dinner recently. Their steak, I have bought salmon there. I have bought tuna. So right now, if I open my kitchen refrigerator door, in answer to your question, a long way around, what am I having for dinner? I look in my refrigerator and I see that I have a piece of sushi grade tuna that I picked up yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Sushi grade tuna you got at Costco?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and I mean so good that I don't really have to cook it because it is literally sushi grade, and so not farmed, fresh, right? Not frozen. Great, because and you guys are on the West Coast, is that right?
Yeah.
Right, and I'm here on the East Coast, so they're bringing this fish in from the Atlantic Ocean. It's fantastic. What I do with it, though, rather than serve it raw, is I take that cast iron pan we were talking about. Now, the one thing that's important to remember about cast iron is it's kind of good if you can fit the right amount of food into the right amount of cast iron space. So I have cast iron in multiple sizes. So if I'm going to make this piece of tuna and I'm going to sear it, right? I kind of want to get a cast iron that's relatively close to the size of the tuna, and I will not put any lubrication in the cast iron pan, but I'll put that heat on super high until I see smoke.
Wow!
I crush black pepper, and I coat the tuna on both sides with crushed black pepper. To be honest with you, it's kind of all you need, but it's easy to amplify. If I wanted to kind of wet the tuna a little bit and give it flavor, I might paint it first with some soy sauce.
Okay.
I would conceive of using the tiniest bit of sesame oil for flavor with that soy sauce. Then I'll give it, generally, I like a good coating of black pepper on the thing. sear it. And when you sear a piece of tuna, it's interesting, in cast iron, you can actually look at it and see that one side is seared. And then once that one side is seared, and that could take 2 minutes or 2.5, depending on the thickness of the piece, I flip it over on the other side. Generally, the second side of cooking anything, whether it's tuna or steak or any kind of protein, takes a little bit shorter than it did on the first side. So I might give it another minute or 2 or 3 on the other side, and then I can look at it. And in looking at it, you can see how much you have left, raw. I like it, black and blue, which is to say it's seared on the outside, but you still have raw tuna essentially on the inside. So if it's sushi grade, you can do that. I could eat that piece of tuna just as it is. Or I could. I like to sometimes throw it slice it up and throw it into a tortilla. You could slice it up and throw it on a piece of salad. You could dip it in the combination of soy and sesame oil and whatever else to give it kind of an Asian spin. You could top it with some freshly chopped cilantro. So that's one thing that I could make. I can also open up my refrigerator, fellas, and I'm not big on no disrespect, but I'm not big on having too much equipment in the kitchen. I wouldn't have a rice maker. It might be the greatest thing in the world if you're using, rice a lot. But what I do have, oddly enough, is I do have the air fryer.
Uh-huh.
And I'll tell you what I use it for. I take one of those 3.5, 4-pound chickens that I've just picked up at Costco, slice up some garlic and some lemon and some seasoned salt. I like salt that I get from, wherever, and has a little bit of rosemary in it and a little bit of black pepper, a little bit of thyme. So I just take lemon and garlic and salt, and I take that bird, which you guys should know you want to cook after it's kind of the chill of the refrigerator is coming off, so it's kind of room temp. You always want to kind of start your proteins at more or less room temperature versus ice cold for the most part. And you salt up that bird inside and out, and you pepper it up inside and out. You could give it a paint of olive oil if you want, and then you take garlic and you throw it in the cavity, and you stick some sliced cloves of garlic under the skin of the breast if you can do that, and then you squeeze lemon all around, and rather than throwing the lemon away, you stick it inside the cavity. And here's the genius. That thing sits in my air fryer for exactly the highest temperature that machine will go, 400 degrees, at exactly 60 minutes. I turn it over at the halfway point so that I make it now breast side up for the second half of the second 30 minutes. And at 60 minutes, I pull it out. I do what you guys have recommended, which is let it rest for 10 minutes, 12 minutes. Very important. That's going to stay super hot. Maybe I tent it with a little bit of something. And I will have the most perfect roast chicken, crisp skin, moist meat, white meat cooked, dark meat cooked, beautiful bird. Right, and then I bought some string beans yesterday, so those are easy to make. You hit them up with a little bit of lemon zest, olive oil, and salt. Those are good. Sweet potatoes are great because you throw those in the oven for an hour, and they're so good they don't actually need a whole lot of other seasonings. So that's a dinner: roast chicken, sweet potatoes, or asparagus or green beans. Those are 2 things in the fridge right now, and then the third one is going to be the turkey meat, which you can convert into either turkey burgers, which I like with a little bit of, like onion and dill is good, or you can do them as turkey meatballs, and I think those are real good, especially when you do what I do, which is I make tomato sauce basically every week of my life. I don't believe in buying tomato sauce. I'm big on just, sauteing up some onion and garlic, throwing a can of tomatoes, cook it up for 20, 30 minutes, and you got your own, season it with some salt, pepper, whatever you got, oregano, red pepper flakes, and you got your own. So I do, turkey meatballs in sauce all the time.
Smart.
And then you can either use pasta, which your kids like, or if you want to go like super healthy, and you made this beautiful tomato sauce, get those spiralized zucchini, man. That thing's good. I don't have time or patience to spiralize my own, but they're selling them now. Spiral, zucchini or whatever it is, or riced cauliflower or whatever you want. You dump tomato sauce on top, and everybody's happy. All you have to do is grate some Parmesan cheese, which is where that that grater comes in.
Yeah, we do that a lot. We do the spiralized zucchini. It's great. You got to have the sauce has to be real hot because you don't want to. At least we don't heat up the zucchini. So
I do.
You heat it up?
Yeah, by all means. They spiralized it for me. I put a tiniest bit of olive oil in a saute pan or in any kind of fry pan. I may chop up a clove of garlic and put it in there. And when that garlic smells good, 30 seconds later, I take that spiralized zucchini, put it in there, toss it around a little bit. It does release some liquid, which is fine, but it warms it up. And then give it a scoop of a beautiful tomato sauce, marinara sauce, whatever you want to call it. Grate on some cheese, and like everybody is
Excellent.
happy. You don't miss pasta.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
yeah. Explain the air fryer? Like, why would I need an air fryer? Why not just the oven?
You don't need it. By all means, you don't need it. It's funny. I got it originally because I felt like we should take those spiralized zucchini noodles, let's say. And I throw in a little salt, a little pepper, maybe some breadcrumbs, just a touch of oil, and stick it into the air fryer. And they're good. They're crispy without being deep fried. So the answer is you don't actually need it. That's what I got it for. You have a roast chicken. Generally, you could roast the chicken in the oven, and I do. I put it on super high heat. I make sure to turn it over so that it's crispy. It's generally the way most chicken is made. The reason I fell in love with the air fryer is actually because of the roast chicken. Like, it requires so little of me. I don't have to actually adjust temperature. I don't have to even take the temperature anymore. What I now know for a fact is that the birds that I'm buying over at Costco, I think they're like 3.5 pounds, but it doesn't matter. They sell them 2 to a pop. Like I said, it's either organic or kosher. Take one out, season it up properly, give it some lemon and garlic, and at 60 minutes at 400 in the air fryer, it just comes out flawlessly. Crisp and juicy. What I'm going to tell you is that it's essentially what it is like it's a small convection oven. So it's moving, it's taking that 400 degrees and circulating the heat, which in theory, not in theory, actually does create a crispness. The failure of the air fryer, if there is one, is that people throw in freshly cut kind of potatoes. And they expect to have French fries at the end of the process. And all I'm going to say is that you can throw in freshly cut potatoes, and you can put on the air fryer, and they will come out kind of like, crispy with zero oil. But what I've learned about the air fryer is that a little bit of oil goes a long way. So, like if you bought the kind of French fries they sell in the supermarket that they tell you all you have to do is kind of use them in the oven. Like, those are great in the air fryer, but they already do have, a little bit of oil included.
Right.
So you don't need to have it. I just love it for the roast chicken, and it turns out like an accessory oven that you can use without having to heat up the whole kitchen.
Yeah.
Right. So if I wanted, for example, to reheat, it's like it's good to reheat or that kind of thing.
Well, my dinner plans are going to fall somewhat short of that. We hosted a Mother's Day brunch yesterday, so we have a lot of leftover bagels.
You're gonna have some donuts for dinner?
We ate all the donuts. So I think we're gonna do kind of a bagel lox spread tonight.
I like
that. I mean, hey, who doesn't like that? It's delicious.
Right. I have no idea what we're going to do. I get one thing I did the other night, which I was a little proud of myself. I went to the store. I was going to get some sort of pre-made carnitas, which is shredded pork for tacos. And we went and got all the, we got a lime, we got a white onion, we got the street taco tortillas, we got everything we needed, and we got over to the meat section. They didn't have it. So I was like, oh boy, either I go put everything back or I just figure out. So I got some chicken thighs. Came home, threw them in the cast iron, threw some chili powder in there, some lime.
Bingo.
Just kept sort of like adding stuff to it until it got where I wanted. Heated up some street taco little corn tortillas in another pan, and they were fantastic. And they were super quick and they were super cheap. I love what you said about having stuff in the kitchen that you can use. Like there was one time when I had the pre-made tortellinis that come in it's like buttoni or something like that, right? But we didn't have a sauce, and so I was like, what am I going to do? So I threw some butter in a pan, I threw a little bit of garlic in a pan, and I just made a butter sauce, and I think we had some fresh rosemary, and I threw that in there, and I made a little rosemary butter sauce, tossed the tortellinis in it, and my wife was like, what, did you just make this up? And I was like, yeah. So it's having a couple basic skills that you can fall back on, having a it doesn't have to be a super stocked pantry, but a pantry of just a couple of the essentials.
The basics,
and
essentials.
I know that in your book you do talk about how to stock a pantry, things that you need to have.
Yeah. I would say this. I think that your experience in doing both the tortellini and the chicken thigh dish, right, is important for people to pick up on. In my book, I call it intuitive cooking. And what it basically means is precisely what it is that you said. It's that you learn a technique or two, you have a certain number of ingredients on hand, and you can always make something great. It doesn't matter whether you're a father or you're a mother or you're a kid in college. I wrote a book with the idea that I went to cooking school, so you don't have to. Like, here's what it is that you need to know. And part of what it is that you need to know is, like how to shop for ingredients, and then what you should keep in the pantry. It doesn't have to be exhaustive, like you said, but there are certain things that make it easy always to bring flavor. Not just olive oil, but maybe you have, some people like, chickpeas. I can always roast those. Some people, you should always have like olives. You should always have like a decent mustard, around the house, that kind of thing. I wrote the book with not only how to shop and what to keep in the pantry, but what I thought the important tools were, some of which we discussed. And then I spent an awful lot of the book in describing the 10 fundamental cooking techniques so that you understood the difference between kind of braising something and roasting something and what are the principles behind kind of like, all those different cooking methods. And only then, after kind of laying out the foundation, are there 100 recipes that, as I said, use predominantly 5, 6 ingredients on the max so that you can get the most taste with the fewest ingredients, and the least effort. And I will confess to you that I have a little bit of a problem with chicken thighs. Like if there were a self-help, if there were like a 12-step program for chicken thighs, I would be like, hello, my name is Rob. I will make them every day, any day, because I find chicken thighs to be loaded with flavor and essentially indestructible.
Yeah. I'm with you on that one.
Yeah, it's very hard. I mean, even when I had them in that cast iron pan the other night, I wanted them to get a little dried out. I wanted them to get a little crunch on that chicken.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you do.
So, Rob Rosenthal, thank you so much for letting us into your world, sharing your experiences, your wisdom. Your podcast is All You Can Eat on iHeartRadio. You have a book, which is fantastic, called Short Order Dad, One Guy's Guide to Making Food Fun and Hassle-Free. That's on Amazon and Barnes & Noble, wherever else you get books. And also your website is shortorderdad.com. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we say goodbye?
Oh, you did a very good job of summing it up. I mean, people can find Short Order Dad on Facebook if they want, Short Order Dad on Twitter if they want. I think on Instagram, however, I changed myself to Real Rob Rosenthal, but that's just kind of pictures of what I'm eating. But yeah, no, other than that, you're right. Got a book which is good for Father's Day, and you got the rest of it nicely incorporated in there. Thank you.
Awesome. That's fantastic. Rob, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for making the time, and it was so much fun to talk to you about food.
My pleasure. Anytime. Thank you, fellas.
Well, I thought those guys did a really great job on the interview, and let's close it out this way, folks. Holiday season coming up. I got a great book idea for you to give away to somebody. Not a lot of money, but a lot of learning and a lot of fun. It's called Short Order Dad, One Guy's Guide to Making Food Fun and Hassle-Free. That's it for episode 99. Be back next week, actually, with episode number 100 of All You Can Eat. And until then, remember, my friends, life is short, so never waste a meal.
I'm the Teflon Pan Man. I'm the Teflon Pan Man. Ain't nothing gonna stick on